Hey everyone, Rich Monroe here with BNB Investing Group. As a reminder, we help investors navigate the short-term rental model, whether you're doing acquisitions, master leasing, or managing properties for other investors. Today, we've got a friend of mine, Amy Powers, on. We're going to kind of dig into, do a deep dive on staging and decor and setting up your short-term rental. And so, Amy, thanks so much for jumping on today. Why don't we start by giving us a little bit of your background?
Well, I originally started out as a home stager in 2007, and through 2022, I was pretty much staging full time. However, in 2019, when the Super Bowl came to Atlanta, I don't know if you remember when that I had several investors who I had staged for asked me if they could turn their properties into short-term rentals for the duration of the Super Bowl so they could charge, a couple $1,000s a night and make some extra revenue while their house was already staged. And staging is very different than short-term rental design. So I didn't know much, but I did know about durability. So I said, let me check everything to make sure. I did use real furniture, like real mattresses and everything like that. So I just wanted to make sure, though, that they were safe for people to use, and I felt confident. Everything went smoothly, and I that was how I got my toe in the short-term rental market, and started doing design. And in 2022, I threw away my warehouse keys and decided to do this full time, and I do it full time nationwide now. And I train other stagers and designers how to do this across the country and world. Actually, I have international students as well on how to do this.
Awesome. That's good stuff. And so, yeah, that was a crazy time during the Super Bowl. I think, everybody, and this is, I was in real estate back when it was the Olympics in '96 in Atlanta. It's the same kind of fever. Everybody wanted to make, the extra money and kind of go out of town during that time period. And I think I probably took on, at the time I was doing a lot of management. So I probably had about 20 new clients that were specifically just trying to set up for the Super Bowl. And
Right.
so there was a lot of volume during that time. And so,
Mhm.
so cool. So did you actually have your own short-term rentals as well during that time, or did you just do the
Not at
staging
that
aspect of it?
time, no. It was several years later. I, with an investment group, had properties in Tucson, Arizona, and one in Utah. What is it? Park City, Utah? Sorry,
Park City,
in Park
yeah.
City,
Okay.
Utah. Yeah. So
Okay.
it was
Very cool.
in
So you so
beautiful
so
spaces.
so what got you into the design world and the staging aspect of it?
Well, the Super Bowl, those clients coming to me and asking me, can you do this? And then it introduced me to, a whole new industry. And it really is an industry shift. And one of the things I always say, I speak at conferences and retreats and so forth on this topic of design for short-term rental, is that my clients were all investors, right? And now we put on this hat of hospitality, and it's a very different industry, and it's a different mindset. How you make money in real estate investment and flipping and all that is a very different way of making money in the hospitality industry. So educating people on that is a very important part of what I do as well.
Okay. Very cool. And so I know you've got some slides to run through.
Yeah,
Um, uh, we can probably just dive right into it, and I'll ask some questions along the way here. Let's
sure.
see here.
Yes. Whenever you're ready, let me know.
Yep,
What's
I
up?
got you up.
Okay, so this, I do interior design for short term rentals. I help with exterior things and so forth. And a lot of people know how to put basic, furniture together, whatnot. But this topic is beyond furniture. It's going the extra step and thinking, how can I devour? What can I do that's going to set my property apart from the competition that is just more? It's bigger and better than just the actual basic design. Oops, sorry. So the Zen mindset, we're going to be. I just talked about the difference between the hospitality and real estate industry per se, and so getting into the right mindset is very important. and thinking about, what are short-term renters, what is their goal for that property? Is it a vacation spot? Is it for a girls' weekend, retreats, whatever the space is for? You have to think very intentionally how you're going to design that. You want to make sure that there's the fun, the experience, incorporating amenities to help make that experience even more impactful. The aesthetics are very important. One of the great thing about short-term rental is that you can change prices and you can make them more around certain events like the Super Bowl I was talking about. I did 8 units in Arizona in 2023 of January, and they were like apartment units that would normally rent for maybe $200 a night. They were making $3,000 a night. So it's a huge way to engage and make your property more valuable. So those details are very important.
Yeah, I agree. And so I was in Austin for speaking at a short-term rental conference last month, and
Mm-hmm.
Austin is a big bachelor party town. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of the STRs that are basically, it might be a 4-bedroom house, but guess what? It sleeps 22 people. And the
That's
bedrooms
crazy.
the bedrooms are larger. They have, queen size bunk beds in them. And so yeah, I agree with you. You have to kind of cater your staging and your setup to the audience and the guests that you're going to typically have to come into that unit.
Right. And with 22 people at a property, there's definitely a higher chance of parties and those damages and more
Yep.
thing. But that's also where doing things right the first time and setting up the right systems can help make that an easier transition from guest to the next guest.
Cool.
So, you know, do a lot of in Atlanta, midterm rental mindset is important too because you can kind of get away from the short term rental restrictions when you're doing a midterm, right? So
Hmm.
if you're familiar with that, I incorporate a little, bit of the MTR in here. They attract guests and they want essential amenities for temporary housing solutions. So making sure if your property caters to a family that might need temporary housing for insurance purposes or whatnot, kind of put your head in the game, thinking empathetically, if you will. What would they need, right? Are they suffering from like their house burned down? Maybe they need to have things in place that are more comforting. Maybe they need to have their pet there, right? Because can you
Hmm.
imagine a house being worked on for 3 to 6 months and boarding the family pet? That would not happen in my house. We couldn't live like that.
Right.
So you need to make sure that you're taking those things into consideration, and whatever the type of property it is, you are being empathetic and you're thinking about that is the possible trauma or loss. How can you make that house feel even more special, and that will give you the best reviews you possibly can, which automatically can increase your revenue.
Right. And it's simple things a lot of times, like, a lot of us that have short-term rentals don't really spend too much time with additional furniture in the bedrooms, like dressers with more storage space and things
Yeah.
like that. And so those are the things I think you really need to think about, making
Hmm.
sure there's enough storage space for folks that are going to be there for 5, 6, 8 weeks at a time.
And the things in the kitchen too, right? Having that crock pot, the nicer blender, more sturdy pots and pans for everyday cooking. And those are things that we take for granted sometimes. But if we use our imagination and put that empathy in place, we can really change the game for sure.
Definitely.
So let's talk about some game changers while we're on the subject. I set that up pretty good, didn't I?
Yes, you
So,
did.
so this part is about just thinking more about games. If you're at a short-term rental or even a mid-term rental where people are staying longer term, don't people like to be busy? You know, they have their phones in their hands. As a mom, I'm like, put the phone down. Let's do something. Well, it needs to be fun. It can't just be something. It has to be something that's going to engage everybody. So games do make people feel good. I love a good competition myself. They can be brainless fun or very strategic. I tend to go more strategy. I love chess and risk and all those board games that where you have to plan out things out. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I like it. I enjoy it. And they are a part of that experience, especially for a short-term rental. So types of games to consider, you have your board games, table games like pool and ping pong, puzzles, card and dice games, video games, with controls and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Outdoor, you have your different types of courts, tennis court, pickleball court, and you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
basketball court as well.
Yeah. Pickleball is a big, recent,
Mhm.
popular thing. That's a great amenity to add for sure.
And it's a third less space than a tennis court, I think,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe a little more than a third. But yeah, it's very fun. I love it. I have my pickleball, my own racket, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So think about the interior and the exterior space and that avatar. Who's your most ideal guest? You don't want to put adult games in a family-friendly property. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
think about those things and whatnot. And we are going to discuss them. So places I go to get good games. Host GPO, I'm sure y'all are familiar with that, and Minoan as well. They have special vendors that cater to games. On Amazon, I found this company called WS Game Company, and they have these really cool. You can see in the photo how they have these beautiful presentations, and they have classic. They have them in metal containers, all different types of ways to package them that are very creative. And I found them on Amazon, but I actually reached out to them, and you can get an affiliate marketing or a design discount if you go directly to them. So they offer that. So if you have several properties, you're putting in a lot of games, you may want to sign up for their program. It's called
Cool.
WS Game Company. Yeah, I
So,
love
Amy,
their.
let's back up just a second because a lot of
Sure.
folks may not be familiar with Host GPO. I know
Okay.
a lot of us are, but some of us aren't. So, if you could kind of give us the basic, um, explanation of what Host GPO is.
So Host GPO is basically a group purchasing organization. That's what GPO stands for. And it is specifically catered to those who are designing, owning, working with as a property manager. You can have a membership with them, and they have vendors that are specifically catered to the short term and midterm rental market industry.
Perfect.
So they
And
have the best
yeah,
bedding, anything and everything that you can imagine.
right.
They have it,
Yeah,
and
and
they
I
have
believe
good
it's like an
service.
annual membership, and you have access
And
to kind of distributor pricing on a lot of
then,
different, items that
if
really
you
can get you
if,
fully operational.
if you email me, I can give you a link so that you can get your first 3 months free, and you can try it and test it if you want to, without having to
Cool.
pay that. So
Awesome. So we'll
another,
put the email. We'll put
yeah,
Amy's email here in the comments in a second. And those of you
yes,
that are jumping on, feel free to throw any questions in the comment section below. We'll try to get to them towards the end.
yes, absolutely. So an obvious place that you can get games is in local stores. Your Target, Home Goods. Home Goods has some really good games that are very traditional too, but they have really nice packaging options for them as well. Obviously, Walmart, Brookstone, and other specialty game stores like that. You can get like this putt putt or this putter green right here. You can get other types of games that are more specially, and the oversized games as well. You can get those in various places as well. So the most popular games based on other short-term rental owners, and this is nationwide, not just Georgia, because shuffleboard is going to be more popular in the northern states than the southern states, where cornhole is probably more popular. But this
Hmm.
is something to consider because I design nationwide, and I find that investors don't often do not limit themselves to one geographical location unless it's just more convenient for them. But table games, pool is obviously number one. Foosball, air hockey, and shuffleboard are the top four table games out there. Ping pong is also on the list. Card and board games, you have your traditional, cards, Uno, Phase 10, Cards Against Humanity, which is definitely the game you don't want to put in a family-friendly house. Um, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Monopoly, Scrabble, Life, chess, and checkers. Those are very family-friendly, relatively easy for people to learn too if they don't already know how to play it. Dominoes, sorry, and puzzles are really fun, especially if you're in areas where it's really cold outside or a lot of rain. Puzzles are a great way for people to casually engage. They don't have to sit around and work on it the whole time. They can go read a book, go on an activity, come back and still, work on the puzzle. So that's a wonderful thing to add to your games as well. Outside games that you may want to consider is the oversized, Connect Four and Jenga and your cornhole. A lot of times the cornhole you can have branded for your property as well, or whatever your brand name is too. So you're reinforcing and creating more marketability for yourself in the future. Badminton, bocce ball, horseshoes, the outdoor putt greens are very popular, especially in areas where the weather's warmer, and outdoor bowling as well.
Very cool.
Cover ups that pop. So these are about things that can go on your walls. So let's talk about that. So
Okay.
I did this property in the Poconos, and it was kind of a blend of the owner had purchased a property from somebody, and they were willing to leave some furniture. So I had to work with what they had and then add new things and layers and make it all cohesive. And it turned out really beautiful. I enjoyed this property. But you see this refrigerator in the back, it's a Smeg, and it's like a 3,000, it's a very expensive refrigerator.
Hmm.
So I use that as my main inspiration color. You can't tell in this rug, but that color is actually in the rug, but on the opposite side of the rug.
Okay.
And I created this mural. I kind of did this whole paint by number kind of thing for the muralist because I'm not a painter, but I am a designer. So all the colors that I used in the design, and I typically use a process called color mapping where I use three colors and I repeat them throughout the property so there's that continuity.
Nice.
And so the colors were are in this, and it turned out so beautiful. The front door is kind of like on the other side of this sofa here. So you're walking it, and this was a basic brown island that kind of, if you look at the cabinets on the other side, they were just, boring. There was nothing there for pop. We couldn't put chairs here because there was not enough of a gap, for stools to sit under. So
Right.
I decided that is what I was going to use for the mural. You know, it was cost effective because it wasn't a huge space, and
Hmm.
it drew your eye in immediately when you're walking through the door.
Very cool. And now you said this is kind of a paint by numbers, so can anybody do this? It's not really artistic, or
No, I
what do you?
designed it, and I put
Mhm.
I literally created the paint by number in the art and the
Okay.
design.
Okay.
But that's what you can do is if you have something like this. I drew inspiration from like other mid-century modern Scandinavian kind of mountain, because this was in the Poconos. I don't know if I mentioned that part. So it was in a mountainous
Okay.
area, and so I
Hmm.
just looked for inspiration in other, art and photos in the area, and knew my color scheme. So I just made it a paint by number. So it's not
Very
something you can
cool.
buy, but it's
Yeah.
something you can do for if you know what your color scheme is.
Got it.
So the whole purpose behind this is it complements and enhances the design. And when you are effective in doing that and you're adding that extra little oomph, it adds value, and it is a mental value, the perceived value. So you always want to think about how you can raise the expectation or perception of your guest without really having to spend too much more money.
Well, and it's like you spoke about earlier, you really want to have something because that listing picture is going to pop, right? And it's basically differentiating your listing over the other properties out there and making it have it more of a unique feel to it. And, you know, it's what we refer to as those Instagrammable moments
Moment.
where folks can actually take Instagram pictures with something that's unique. You know, you're not going to find that in every single listing that's up there.
And you see the deer on this mantle. This is another little fun thing I did. They were actually white, and this is around Christmas time. You can see these photos are cell phone photos, not professional, which I do encourage. These are just for me, and I'm just using them for this PowerPoint. They were not put in the listing. You can see the Starbucks cup on the counter, the Christmas cup. But I took these, I'm like, you can see black is clearly one of my colors in my color scheme, in the art and the mantle and the furniture and whatnot. So I took these deer and I painted them black. It was that easy.
Nice.
So that's a way you can, you know, around Christmas time, you can get a whole, especially if you're in the mountains, cabins or whatnot, you're going to have more woodland type, you know, winter woodland type decor out there. Figure out how you can use it year round so it works. And there were deer all over this area, so it was a natural thing to do.
Very cool.
So this is a huge property I did in Indiana, and I can't think of the little town. It was a little tiny town, and this house was probably a third of it. But this is an indoor pool, as you can see, and my challenge here was how to take all this brown and give it some pop and oomph. So I added white, I added some orange and creams and greenery, and you can't completely see it from this angle, but that where that arrow is pointing is this room. And so you can look out. We do have privacy curtains there. The master bedroom is on the top of the bottom bedroom. So we brought the greens, whatever colors we had in here, I brought them into. So you want to make sure whatever you're trying to do, there's that repetition. And using the wallpaper kind of really helped make it still feel organic and bring a lot of color in.
And so that is another cheap option to kind of makes a room pop is, you know, even though folks feel like, especially real estate investors have stopped using wallpaper. And when you do your rehabs, you're basically pulling all that stuff down and redoing it. And so it's become a popular, cost-efficient way to kind of do accent walls, right? And have that flexibility.
Yes. Like this was a perfect little nook, right? So we didn't have to do every little, you know, nook and cranny. You pick a spot that works, and it's way more practical on your budget when you're not doing every single wall surface.
Right.
So this is a vinyl mural, and I get a lot of my vinyl murals from Etsy. And so the goal here, this was in Michigan, right off of Lake Michigan in Mears, Michigan, which is near Silver Lake, where they have all these huge sand dunes. You can see them in the background. And when I was there, these sand dunes were covered in like Jeeps and dune buggies and all kinds of recreational vehicles on the dunes. It was actually kind of scary and exciting at the same time to see them all lined up. I was like, whoa, that's a lot of people. And I also used the blue and white. I added extra color in there because that looks really good in photography as well. But you can see that this sand dune mural really ties in. So it has a connection to the property and what, you know, the purpose of this vacation would be like. So you want to make sure whatever you're doing has some kind of connection. It's not just for the sake of putting wallpaper up or putting a mural up. It has to make sense. I have the philosophy that if people ask more questions and they get answers, something's not right. So you want it to make sense. So this is another mural with backlighting, and it's one of those LED lights with a little remote and everything, so the light can change. And that's just a fun way to add just a little extra oomph to the property. And this was a small condo, nothing super extraordinarily special. But my personal philosophy is you can turn anything into something luxury by how you accessorize and the attention to detail you pay to it.
Love it. So so the lights are just going around the border?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's a nice effect.
So this is a tile. You can see tile in the bathroom. Just it's not the whole bathroom. It's just this back wall where the sinks are, but it adds a beautiful backdrop. And this tile I did this tile. It was a stick and peel tile. I just had to get a towel cutter. And again, not a huge space, but it changes the little like sitting area in the kitchen. We call it a keeping room here in the South. It turned it into something more, I will say, fancier, right?
Yeah.
And this was kind of a Scandinavian vibe we were going for, so we added the baskets, and the colors are all Scandinavian. And this room is looking out into that pool area as well. So, and there's a lake on the property.
Very cool. And so that whole accent wall behind the couch is also tile?
It's peel and stake tile. So
peel and stick tile. Okay.
I didn't have to grout it.
Nice.
I just had to have the right tool to cut.
Got it. Very cool.
So these are some vinyl cutouts I did in properties in Dallas area. It was in a very artsy area, and we have like our Banksy type style art with the chimpanzee, and then some Scandinavian art. And these were like really tiny apartments, and like this is basically the dining room. So we added that little area to kind of highlight it, so it had a little bit of a contrast and whatnot. And every one of these little lines you have to do right. But it was my first time, so it took longer than it should have. But
I love the color contrast between the yellow and the blue. That definitely pops.
Oh, I love it too. It had kind of like a periwinkle with the banana sofa, and that was the vibe. It was kind of like an electric blue, and if you look at the cowhide in the bottom, you can see it has some electric blue in there as well. It's kind of hidden, but it was a very 80s electric slide.
Very cool.
Yeah. And painting with architectural details. These two properties are properties, Anya share.
Yeah.
These are her properties that I had done, and her contractor did these, and they're so beautiful. This top one with the black looks very elegant and perfect for a master bedroom. This is also Scandinavian. The bright color with the organic headboard just looks very appealing. It looks really good in photos, right? So think about that
definitely.
too. Our first contact with our guest is visually through the listings. So you want to make sure you're doing things that are going to attract and draw them in. That's how you will devour the competition with your listing photos.
And where are those properties located?
This one is, I think, near Fairburn.
Okay.
And this one is in Smyrna or Kennesaw.
Okay.
Kennesaw.
So both in Georgia.
Yes, these are in Georgia.
Okay.
And
and for
in Dallas,
Those are where? The other ones are where?
in Dallas.
In Dallas. Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very. I mean, what would you say the average cost is to do something like that behind the beds, like those two options?
Whatever the cost is for the wood, and if you have a
Hmm.
carpenter or a contractor who knows how to cut properly, I don't think the labor is too extensive. And then paint,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
this is just
Hmm.
wood here, and this back part is just the wall. So you're basically painting the wall and the wood, and it just, it just gives a really great depth, good texture, and you can go online and find all kinds of designs like this.
Nice. Very cool.
So art hanging, a lot of people don't know how to hang art properly. Most art should be hung 50, the middle of the art should be 57 inches from the floor. However,
Hmm.
there are all these exceptions, over sofas or console tables when you have large walls and larger pieces of art. This is a 3-panel piece of art that forms like one picture, but you don't want it to be so close together that it doesn't look the right proportion, right? So
Hmm.
I did about 6 to 8 inches apart so that it was spread out. This mirror look right here, the mirrors. Um, my client wanted to use the mirror, but I said it wasn't the right proportion. It would have been too small for just one, so we used two. Another trick I use with when I'm pairing the same type of art up together. Let's say it's a canvas, and Ross has some great canvases. If you ever go to Ross, and every
Hmm.
now and then you'll find they have like some that are the same pieces, right?
Right. Hmm.
So when I was staging, I used to do this because it was budget friendly, and I still do it with the design. I'll just flip one completely upside down from the other, and it adds more interest. It doesn't look like it's the exact same piece of art.
That makes sense. I like
Yeah.
that.
So down here, this was like a little hole in the wall kind of thing. They had nothing, so I designed this wet bar area with a little space for you to work. You can plug your laptop in or whatnot. But it was a wet bar, so we actually had this mirror left over from a bathroom design. I velcroed it to the tile so it wouldn't fall. And these are charcuterie boards that can be, used as well as becomes part of the design. So layering your art and propping it is something you can do. You just want to make sure it's secure. And then
Hmm.
this bedroom, this is the Park City property. You really didn't need art in this space. The design was art. You have your natural focal point, and these windows created, some interest as well. So if you're going for a cleaner minimalist, you don't always have to put art in a room if it doesn't need it.
Now, what about if you've got like a just a regular plain white wall behind the bed? Do you recommend when you do hang a picture above the bed to make it be the same width as the headboard so that it's wide enough?
As close as possible. I mean, if it's a little bit smaller, that's fine.
Hmm.
But you definitely want to, art is intended to control the eye, right? Because it has color and interest. So
Hmm.
you want to make sure whatever it is and wherever you put it, that it makes sense and it controls the eye. If it's over the bed, you have to make sure that if someone is sitting up in the bed, that it's not going to hit, the back of their head because you don't want to risk it
Right.
falling. So you have
Hmm.
to make sure that it's extra secure and it's the right height.
Got it.
So the beast within, this is our pets. So a lot of people, when it comes to short-term and midterm rentals, get a little scared of being pet friendly, but it's actually very profitable and it's not difficult, especially if you're doing it right. You can charge for it. You can make up whatever you think you could lose by adding the right things in place so it becomes a perceived value. So think about what is stopping you, what are your biggest fears? Why not be pet friendly, right? Pet friendly
Hmm.
is more than that I was telling you this, Rich, earlier. It's more than having a leash and a fenced-in yard. So let's talk about that. What does that look like from a hospitality perspective? So we have your fun stuff or your everyday regular stuff, leashes, dog bowls, crates. This little crate down here has all the toys that a dog could enjoy. This is the dog bowls that actually match that Smeg refrigerator that we saw earlier. I lucked out. So when I was out, I think I got them at TJ Maxx. I was like, there's no way I would have ever found these on my own. It was just the right thing at the right time. So those are
Nice.
your basic things to have when it comes to treats and dog food and things like that. You can add services, and we'll talk about that in a second, so that you can profit from that as well. But functional stuff, protective furniture covers, they can be things that you can buy online. They have pet furniture covers
Hmm.
or those old sheets that you may have spent a lot of money on, but they got that one stain from that one guest. And
Hmm.
you can tie them up really nicely, put a little ribbon and a note saying, "Hey, these are for your dog. If you want to have them sit on the sofa or your chair, you can lay this over and you don't have to worry about, pet hair or whatever, especially if it's a midterm rental, they're long term." And that
Hmm.
protects you. And I find most people are willing to find a solution to a problem if things are given to them properly,
Yeah.
so they have
Right.
that solution. So old towels can be used as well
Hmm.
for, you can have like a bin or a container. Hey, these are your dog towels. That way you're not wasting that investment. You're actually able to reuse it and it becomes a win-win instead of a negative.
Nice.
Pet friendly vacuum obviously is very important. Air purifiers are very important because you never know from one guest to the next. If you say your property is pet friendly, they should be aware that pets will have been in the property, but you don't know how severe an allergy could be or whatnot. So that just helps make sure that it doesn't have that musky pet smell or any other things in the air that could be compromising for your guests. So this is something to consider if you are seriously wanting to add pets to your properties. Fabulous stuff. Like if you had the ability to build from scratch, like you're designing your property or you're remodeling and you have space to do certain things, having a dog bathing station is so amazing. People with pets will flock to your property if you have something like this. Like
That
this
makes
is
a
like
good listing picture too. That makes a good listing picture.
absolutely, it's top of
Yeah.
the line for sure.
Hmm.
Pest waste removal is something that you can outsource. You can have people coming to your property and picking up behind waste to make sure that your guests are not walking in it, as well as it's not spreading to other animals that could be guests in the future. Dog walking service, especially if it's a midterm or in a city, in inner city where you have a lot of, not a lot of green space or time maybe. So having a dog walking service available for your guest is amazing. A mobile dog groomer is an amazing relationship to have too, where they can come to that property and groom the dog as well. A doggy daycare, if it's a vacation short term rental property, they may not want to take their dog with them all the time to all the places. And maybe not all the places will take dogs either. So providing a source or resource so that the dog can be outside the house when no one's there is
Hmm.
creative solutions to some of the problems that you may be having when you're saying, why should I be pet friendly?
Like
And
it. Yeah.
Instacart
Hmm.
will deliver dog food bags and any of the supplies that you need to create a pet friendly environment for your guest as well.
Very cool.
And we're almost done. We have to do the baby. You got this. Children friendly. When you're thinking about short term rental, midterm rental, and you can qualify, you know, that it's going to be family friendly, whatnot. You want to just make sure all those little touches are there too. It can really make or break it for a parent if their child's needs are taken care of. And sometimes they accidentally leave things, or they may find you have things that are way more convenient than they ever imagined, like the bathroom um, stool, the steps. You can use that
Mm-hmm.
in the bathroom or the kitchen. They can step right up and brush their teeth with that, and that's lovely. All the dinnerware, plasticware. And whenever I put dinnerware like this in a property, I put it on a lower shelf so the kids can have access to it and help set the table, things like that. The right
Nice.
little games and books and toys are fun. Having extra things like high chairs, strollers, a pack and play can be huge. And one of the best tips I've received as I've been doing this is work with third party companies that rent out cribs and all these
Yeah.
extra little things that have recalls on them. Your guests can rent them directly through them, and that removes liability off of you
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
those very um, risky.
Totally agree. Yeah, I've been using
Yeah,
Baby Quip for probably the last 7 years.
yeah,
They're a great organization, and it kind of it like you say, it puts all that stuff on another company instead of you having the liability to have
yes.
things break and things like that.
And when it comes to kids, you don't want a child to get hurt and it be your fault on your property, because that is a huge risk factor. And I know you have things in place, but this just is an extra thing. So one less thing to have to worry about.
Absolutely.
And this kind of baby stuff changes all the time. Like when I had kids, like it's completely different. So you never
Mm-hmm.
know what a parent will prefer either, and they have choices. So it will accommodate them right where they are.
Yeah, totally agree.
So style comes and goes. Good design is a language, not a style. Let's finalize this up. So design is in the details and the photos. So you can see these photos are of close-ups, not just the space like a real estate listing photo would be, where
Right.
you're selling the space and not the stuff. Well, with short-term rental design and midterm rental, you are selling the stuff. These are amenities. These things are what will help increase perceived value. They show that attention to detail, that if you have all these little things right out in the open taken care of, what are you taking care of behind the scenes? It just kind of answers that question for them, that you are taking care of those details. And so you can see color plays a huge impact, as well as the accessories. Details, again, paying attention to those details. This lighting was amazing in the Poconos property. And you can add in some creative photography in there too. And a statistic that I've learned is that 20% of people who have short-term rentals are using professional photography properly on their listings. And within that 20% of people that are doing it, they are making more money because of that. More people are
Yeah,
going to their listings. So it actually will pay for itself. So professional photography is very important.
totally agree.
So remember these things: durability. And what that means is anything, if you're looking at something and you're trying to purchase something, the terms that you want to consider is hospitality friendly, non-residential use, commercial grade or contract grade are important terms to think about when you're purchasing those sofas and beds and things that people are going to be touching and sitting on. Think through risk management. Whatever you do, think through the risk so that you are protecting yourself and your property. Anything that touches the body has to feel very good and be clean. And so, towels, bedding, anything like that, you want to pay extra attention to. And I say beds, heads, and bottoms. So, you're talking about Rich, the 22 people in that 4-bedroom property. I have a
Yeah.
rule that you should have a bathroom for every 3 to 4 people. So
Yeah.
bottoms are very important to consider. You don't want to just fill it up if you don't have the right amount of bathroom space, especially if they're all women for, oh my goodness, I can't even
Oh yeah.
imagine.
No,
You want to make
it's
sure.
yeah, it's challenging when you've got those 3 1s, 3 bedroom, 1 baths.
Yes,
Everybody's going to be fighting for that 1 bathroom. So totally agree. You got to be conscious of
exactly.
that.
Yeah, very well. Be very conscious, right? And you get what you pay for. There's some inexpensive things that are good quality, but most of the time it's not good quality. So put a little bit more into it. It will pay for itself in the long run. Aesthetics should Aesthetics, meaning how it looks, should complement the architecture and the guest avatar. They should not be competing with each other. The color mapping, plan out your design palette, what you want to do. This is for that property where I had that huge pool, and it
Hmm.
was a Scandinavian, so this was my main colors. But in the pool room, I wanted to kind of break away from that. Oh, sorry, going too far. And so I usually provide color palettes as well, and then the professional photography is the cherry on top. So I offer design solutions for DIYers who want to do it all installation wise, but we also install nationwide consultations. If you have questions, I can help you with that, especially if you already have a property that you may feel needs a refresh or a refresh plus, which is adding new things to it on top of what you have existing. I help with remodeling bathrooms and kitchens and anything, floor to ceiling, color consultations, white glove delivery, making sure all those boxes. My company is called Vacation Rental in a Box, and I named it that because I realized quickly how everything comes in boxes. So you have to throw those things away. So that's an important step too. And so TV mounting, coaching as well, for design. I'm not a short-term rental coach. I'm a short-term rental design coach. Just
Got
to
it.
clarify that, Rich. I'm very
No,
specific.
I understand. So I'm a real estate investor coach for short-term rental investors, and you're doing coaching for helping folks design their short-term rental.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And
Now
this
you're
is
doing
this
this
is my,
you're doing this all over the United States, so you can actually do this remotely, right?
oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, very cool. All right,
And
so
I
I know
have
what. Go
I
ahead.
have a book on eco-friendly design, and I'm writing two more books. I'm writing a DIY design book and one for accessibility for universal design, dealing with people who might be older or have special needs, how to design for those type of people as well.
Very cool. Awesome. So we've got your contact info up on the screen, your social media, Instagram, Facebook. I also put your website in the comments below, as well as your email address. And so everybody that's watching, and when you watch the replay, feel free to reach out to Amy and get more details on how she might be able to help you with your short-term rental. So I like that. If you're doing a fresh rehab, you're just now setting up, or if you want to do a refresh on an existing listing, it's a
Mhm.
good way to kind of do a total revamp and implement some of these strategies with, making your listing pictures pop and becoming more competitive. So love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
Well,
so
thank
much, Amy, thanks for jumping on. This has been very informative. Really, I'm sure our members will get a lot of quality information out of this presentation. So we appreciate you taking the time.
thank you.
And so thanks everybody for watching this week. And, as a reminder, BNB Investing Group, we help short-term rental investors. If you're ready to scale a business and kind of jump in, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook Messenger. We can set a quick time to chat and see if what you guys are doing, if what we provide in our program can kind of help, get you there quicker. And so, Amy, thanks again. Thanks so much for jumping on, and we'll definitely keep in touch. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.